Hello guys, my name is Howitt and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the first 10 investments that I would make as a beginner videographer. Now I figured that since this channel is sort of aiming towards people that are starting out in videography, this would be quite an interesting first video for me to do. Sometimes it can be quite difficult to know where to start really when you're first starting out, so I'm just hoping to shed a little bit of light on that. It's a sunny day, so I pointed at the sun. Yeah, light. Okay. Make this a little bit more interesting and a little bit more realistic. I'm setting myself a budget of £1,500. I think if I wasn't to set a budget, I could just go straight in for a Red and a Movi, and that would just be ridiculous. So yeah, £1,500 is quite a lot of money, but in terms of the videography world and the investments you're going to make, it probably isn't. I'm also assuming that you've got a PC, Mac or laptop that you can edit on, and you've got the editing software already as well. I realise these things are very expensive, so I just want to be very transparent that I'm not factoring those in at all. Also, this whole list could really differ depending on the type of jobs that you want to be doing, but I'm assuming that starting out in videography, you're probably just going to be taking whatever is offered your way. So I'm trying to build up a list here that's going to cover pretty much every scenario. I think I've covered my back a little bit, so let's get into the list. Number one, you're probably going to need a camera. I think if you're going to go into videography, camera, pretty essential. So we're going to be looking at DSLRs. I would suggest not going for high-end video cameras straight off the bat. I think you're going to want something that is more lightweight and versatile, and is going to be able to, you're going to be able to use on multiple different jobs and different scenarios. You never know what is going to be thrown your way when you first start out. Now there's 3 DSLRs that I would recommend, and I imagine you've probably heard of all of them, to be honest. I feel like they're going to be on most people's lists when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'm not going to go too much into the specs of them because I feel like I would be here all day, and to be quite honest, I think the camera is probably the least important part of this whole entire list. So the first camera on my list is the Sony a6300, decent low light performance and 4K. Second camera on my list is the Panasonic GH4, well recommended camera, widely used in videography, and 4K as well. Third, finally but certainly not least, is the Panasonic G7. Again, really well recommended, and a 4K camera at a very low price point. Now for each of these cameras, I would be looking at buying them used, and let me explain why. Simple way of looking at it is that you're probably going to want to replace this camera within 1-2 years. In my opinion at least, there's really no point in forking out the 800 or 700, 1,000 pounds that you could pay for these cameras brand new. Instead, save some of that money and invest it into other gear that you're going to get more use out of over an extended period of time. For the a6300, you can pick that up used for around about £400 to £500. Same price point for the GH4, and then the G7 you can pick that up used for about £300 to £400. So just for the sake of our budget really, and just because I don't place that much emphasis on the camera itself, I would actually opt for the G7 out of these 3 cameras if I was starting out right now with a budget of £1,500. Okay, second piece of gear on the list, you're going to need a lens. Now this is one that is probably going to be very disagreeable with most people, and I understand why. The lens I'm opting for is the Tamron 24 to 70mm. Again, buy it used, pick it up for around £400 to £500. This lens is an absolute workhorse and will serve you so well on multiple different projects. The focal length of 24 to 70 is a great starting focal length. It will cover pretty much everything. However, we are sticking it on a micro four thirds sensor, so it is actually going to be around a 50 to 150mm lens. Still a decent focal length. There's probably not that many cases where you're going to need anything wider, but you know, if you wanted to invest, there are some great wide lenses out there. Also, with the micro four thirds sensor, there is just an abundance of fantastic glass that you can stick on that camera. So I would say take this one with a little pinch of salt. This is just my recommendation. Number 3 on the list, you're going to need an adapter. That lens is either Nikon or Canon. It's very easy to pick up a cheap adapter for the Nikon or Canon to micro four thirds sensor, and whilst in the long run a cheap adapter maybe isn't ideal, for now it should work pretty fine. So you can actually pick one of those up for around about £20. So technically speaking, now we can go and shoot, but there's a pretty important aspect here missing, and that is sound. It gets neglected way too often, especially when you're starting out in videography. They say that sound is 50% of the final product, but to be honest, I would say it's even more than that. I think great sound design can absolutely save and salvage terrible visuals. And at the very basic end of things, when you're working for a client, you just need good sound. So number 4 on my list is going to be the Rode VideoMic Pro. Pretty standard. Basically everyone that does video work does own one of these at some point in their career. And there is good reason for that. It's a good quality microphone that you can stick on top of your camera, and it's very convenient. But it's not ideal for every situation, so we're not quite done with the sound just yet. So number 5 on my list is the Rode Smart Lav. This is going to be great for documentaries and interviews and wedding speeches. Basically any opportunity that you get to hook somebody up with a lav, do it. I've got one on right now. These things are phenomenal. They give you crystal clear audio. You can pick one of those up for I think £50 brand new, so there's no question about it in my mind. You definitely got to purchase one of those. Now it is a wired lav, so you are going to need something for it to feed into. So that brings us on to number 6. Number 6, I would pick up a Zoom H1. These things are really amazing. I've only used it once myself. I've used the H4n and the H5 though. Zoom is a very trusted brand. They're easy to conceal, and with the lav mic running into that, you're going to get really nice, crisp, clear audio. You can pick one of those up for £80, and the quality of the audio that you're going to get with this combination is absolutely worth it. So moving on from sound, let's go back to our visuals. Now the most important aspect of creating a nice looking visual is not the lens, it's not the camera, it's lighting. So of course, number 7 on the list, it's lighting. Now you can end up spending a lot of money on lights, and there's good reason for it, but at this point we're not really at that stage just yet. So I recommend the Neewer 3-pack bicolor dimmable lights. You're going to be able to get a really nice lighting setup for this, and it's probably going to come in handy since you've got a micro four thirds sensor right there that is probably going to struggle in low light situations a lot of the time. Believe me though, learn how to use these lights and you are going to be able to create such beautiful looking work. So much so that nobody is going to be able to tell that you've used a Tamron lens and a Panasonic G7 camera. So you can pick these up brand new for £200. You can get the 2 light set if you want for £150, and then maybe just pick up a reflector. That's also a good choice. But with just a £50 price difference between the 2-pack and the 3-pack, I'm going to opt for the 3. Okay, so number 8, one thing's missing. You're probably going to need a tripod. Unless of course you want to balance the camera on like a stack of books or something. I feel like we've all done it, but I don't think you want to do it on a client shoot. Okay, so forgive me here, I'm going to have to read from my phone because I always get the numbers of this one mixed up. So the tripod that I recommend is the Benro A2573F. Now you can get a bunch of different heads to come with this tripod, but I would go for the S4, simply because if you go any lower than that, you're not going to get the fluid pan and tilt head. Trust me, once you've experienced it, you'll know exactly why that is so important to have. For an extra £50, you can pick up the S6 head, and then you have a little bit more control over the drag, but for our budget, I'm sticking to the S4 head. So this tripod will set you back around £250. I do think that is a justifiable price. I think this tripod is going to last you a very long time. I can't really see any reasoning behind needing to swap it out. Okay, so we're nearing the end. I appreciate you sticking with me for so long. This next one, it's not really gear related. Number 9, it's branding. Having nice branding can do a whole lot for you. Usually it's the first thing that a client sees. If you have a nice looking logo, you can transfer that onto your business card, website, Facebook, and it is going to reel in clients. I mean, I think as human beings, we're just naturally attracted to things that look good, and it really is just that simple. Now this could cost you a fair bit. It could run into the hundreds of pounds. So in the beginning, I was actually creating my own logos, very simple stuff. But saying that, I would definitely recommend investing in something like this. The money that you pay for a nice looking logo is money that you are going to make back from said logo. It's never really going to expire, and it is possible to find designers relatively cheap, maybe family members or friends or other creatives around you. There are also websites like Upwork, for example, where you can find fantastic freelancers at very good prices. I would definitely recommend getting some business cards done as well. Personally, I've always done them myself in Photoshop and then sent them off to a company to get printed. It's usually cost me around £15 to £20 for like a pack of 250, so I would say that's pretty worth it, especially then if just one of those business cards brings in a client that potentially could bring in hundreds or even thousands of pounds. Now websites can be very expensive. Personally, I use Squarespace, and that is a great hosting site. Just having a Facebook page can be very beneficial to you, especially when you're in your first year and you're really trying to get your name out there. Okay, so that's branding done, tick it off. We're on to number 10, and what I would say is the most important one on this list. Now this one is not gear related at all, and it is very easy to get hung up on gear, and I know I'm going to sound like a complete hypocrite now, but I'm going to tell you the very stereotypical thing that everybody says: gear doesn't matter. Now, without trying to sound like one of those motivational speakers, the most important thing that you can invest in is yourself. Just have some confidence in your work. It goes a long way, and work hard. Whatever you're making, put it out there to be seen. Now, I know that this can be quite difficult because I've struggled with this myself. A lot of creatives are also perfectionists, and we're filled with self-doubt. Innately, I just think everything that I create is just complete garbage. But if you do think that way, I'm sorry, you've just got to get over it. Now, I know it's a lot easier to say that than to actually do it, but if you don't do it, your business will not be as successful as you'd like it to be. Okay, so that wraps it up. That's gonna do it for this video. Let me know if you agree with my list. Feel free to shout at me and curse me out. If you don't agree with the list, please don't actually do that. Also, it would be pretty cool if you guys would let me know what your list looks like. I'd be really interested to see some of those. Please remember to like the video if you did like the video, and please remember to subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I've still not got better at ending these things. I really, I don't know what to do with myself, honestly. I don't want to do the walking off thing again. So I'm just probably going to end it quite abruptly. Yeah, just going to end it really abruptly.